Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to Out of the Park Baseball 25, episode number 20. We continue on with the off season. I'm going to try to condense things down within this episode a little bit and not spend as much time on details. So we'll make things quick. Beginning with the status of the finances heading into the new year. Player payroll a year ago was 66 million. Projected payroll for the coming year with arbitration brings us to 60 million, definitely down from where we were, and with a little bit of money to spend and deals that could happen. Staff payroll at the moment is actually less than it was. We've made major improvements to the staff. Only a single position has yet to be filled, and actually it would put us slightly above staff payroll for last year. But to come out of staff payroll at almost the same with drastic improvements is a great sign. Scouting budget, development budget projected to be the same for the coming year. Draft expenditure, we actually saved nearly 5 million on draft expenses this last year, but we are looking to spend an extra nearly 2 million in the international free agent market. And the coming budget for the year remains pretty tight. We definitely do not have a lot of money to play with. I'm going to lower the ticket price once again because it did wonders to increase our overall attendance for the coming or last year, and you can see it was still very, very low, but a lot better than the 1 to 2,000 that they typically played in front of in real life, putting us somewhere around 15,000 a game. If we can get that up to 25,000 a game or 20,000 a game, it would go a long, long way. You can see that we did increase both spending and income, where we were plus 7 million last year. We're still smallest budget, still smallest payroll, still tiny and pathetic, but we have slowly grown that fan interest from a 15 to now a 32 over a couple of seasons. Player development so far are 6. 3 of them are on track. 3 are a little frustrated, not going well. At this point, not looking too likely that they will happen. And our last staff member, the one who did not agree, had to go to a plan B. We've got them. That completes our staff signings. Like I said, only a single one ended up saying no and accepting a deal from somebody else. We've now had the arbitration hearing, so here is our results. Carlos Hernandez awarded 3 million. That is what we offered. Bryce Wilson getting 4.7 million. That's a bit much, but at least it's less than the 5 we started at. We offered 4 million for him. Shea Langoliers gets 2.7. That is the player amount that he asked for, but it's only 100K more than we were offering. Ruiz gets the 2.2 million. Jake Cousins 1.2. That is the team offer. Mason Miller gets 2.42. That's what he asked for. It's only 200K more than what we were offering. JP Sears does get the team offer of 1.75. Ryan Jeffers, oof. Wow, that's a big increase over what was offered. 4.1 versus the 3.4 that we offered. That's quite a bit more. Not sure how he qualified for that. De Los Santos, big difference. Unfortunately, they sided with us on that one, 1.9 million. Nick Allen gets 1.1. Overall, pretty good outcomes on that one. Really only one significant increase to Bryce Wilson. The following professionals have declared interest in joining major leagues. These are guys that are already older and closer. Kawasaki is not good enough. Mila is not good enough. Miyagi, definitely not good enough. Nakayama. Watanabe is. So Mishinori Watanabe, 2.5 star, but really not that great. Anguilla is at least a little more balanced. The catcher is not good enough. Our second baseman out of Taiwan is not good enough. None of these players project as major leaguers for me. With free agency filings now in effect, we can see where the teams stand. You're looking at the Twins and Brewers, Cubs, Giants, Marlins all losing a lot of their talent currently as we enter the free agency market, where we haven't. We are still at an exact 0 on gains and losses, And that, at least for the moment, puts us number 2 this offseason. With our losses, Rengifo the only notable one, even though he's not the only notable one, but with 5 players additional out, the wins above replacement for them, it's all like negative stuff. So we're not actually losing any games from this group, which has left us right where we were at. And that gives us our first look at the free agency market with a couple of closers at the top demanding half of what our overall salary is. By the way, with the combination of free agency and now arbitration behind us, we find ourselves at 56 million, which is 10 million below where we were a year ago. So we actually do have some money to spend on a potential free agent, but we're definitely not spending 20 million plus. We just can't afford that. The one we could afford near the top is outside of the age range of those we're looking at. So a lot of these guys are just too dang old for us to go after. Canning is maybe the one we would be interested in, but I have a feeling that at 14 million it's a little more than I want to sign, and I'd rather look towards like a Ranger Suarez, but he's at 24 million. Chris Sale be great, but he's 36, so we're not looking to go that route either. Meaning, most of our options have already removed themselves from consideration here very quick. By the way, I've already offered a few minor league contracts out and already signed a few guys that way, but we need to start filtering this down to viable options, beginning with age. And once you quickly shuffle that or sort that out, Dustin May, there he is again, but he's demanding 22 million now. Would have been handy, certainly could have been usable as trade, but Luis Arias, possible signing, possible, little expensive, but 3 stars. Matt Manning looks like probably a good acquisition at 1.7 million. I think we could definitely try to offer that. Getting into the 2.5 star range, you got a few guys that are not demanding anything, and we might want to just throw in some minor league offers for those. Looks like we found our Rengifo direct replacement. Right, we let Rengifo go because he was making 5 million, asking for 5.5 million to stick around. In his place, potentially Jeremy Pena, another shortstop, 28, so still fairly young, has the contact, not a lot of power, not a great player, just a serviceable bench player who has a positive wins above replacement for Houston over the last 4 years. Starts most every day. Kind of surprising to see him at that, but he's also durable and asking 1.6 million. Other than Pena, I have identified 6 potential free agent signings, and from those, I'd like to be sure that we have good reports on them. Yes, all are very high, so that makes life easier. We have a couple of pitchers in Jose Suarez, and I think I could turn around and kind of make deals with some of these, or what I have, trades to move pieces out or in as replacements may come in via signings. Suarez, okay as a pitcher. I mean, he doesn't have great stamina. He's got some control. He's got the ability to kind of hang in there. He had an 8.5 ERA in 23, and in 24, 5.5. In 25 with Washington, brought it down to 4.8. The minor ones: 1 starter, 1 reliever, 2 outfielders, and a first baseman. The major one, Arias, looks like a good talent. Somebody who can hit for average, which is something our team really lacks. No, he doesn't have power, but good enough on defense, has the eye, has great contact with Miami real life, and then now Milwaukee in the game this last season. Somebody who can actually hit for average. 12.8 is pretty high, but considering what we've spent on other players, I wouldn't mind actually bringing somebody in who can do something like this. Reyes could result in draft pick compensation, therefore out. I'm not going to go down that route. Not worth it for us to give up in order to get. I've ended up giving out 3 offers: Suarez, Oviedo, and Badu. Reyes, the draft pick compensation is not worth it, and for Jonathan India and Josh Naylor, both are looking for guaranteed major league contracts of $2+ million, and neither one of them is quite good enough to really give that. I'd really like to put them on the minor league with major league option, or in the $1 million range might be worthwhile, but not straight up. To get into the range of the youngest prospects, the 24 and under prospects that are out there that have that 2-star potential or more, getting anybody who's not got a demand for money, we're going to go ahead and select all and then remove those 3. And all these young players, we're going to go ahead and give offers to them of minor league contracts. That's 25 players that we're looking to bring in that'll replace those 20 retirees and give us some trade capital, even if we only end up signing 15 of them or 10 of them. All 4 offers involving finances are all still pending. A lot of the minor league deals are already in place, with just a couple of them that are wanting more money and unlikely to sign with us. And meanwhile, I've already signed probably 15 players, all now located at that rookie league level. The one short program we ran for the development lab of the 6 has come back with no improvement. So Del Sol, the young catcher, has not improved as a defensive catcher. Hall of Fame ballot time. I've got 10 potential votes to cast. There are 33 players on the ballot this year. For whatever reason, a bunch of players did not appear on last year's ballot for me. Why I didn't get a chance to vote for them, I have no idea. But we'll see if we have a complete list this year. There's definitely a number of firsts that are on the list, but not a wide number of them. I think I'm ready to submit my ballot using 6 of my available votes. My 2 fringe guys, and then we'll go up from there. Beltre of the big bats of a bad era. Kind of clean it up on that one. He's just above the other guys. Just barely good enough. And comes in a little bit later in that era where things had cleaned up and not necessarily noticed. I don't know if he was a steroids guy or not. So Beltre just making it in, where on the mound it's Andy Pettitte who's just on the, just good enough, finishing up his career in 2013. Easy choices for me: King Felix Hernandez, A-Rod, definite steroids abuser, but was a generational talent. CC Sabathia, very strong on the mound. And then, of course, my all-time favorite player, Ichiro Suzuki, who wasn't on the ballot last year, but was on the ballot last year. He wasn't one of my choices. He didn't make my list. Was apparently on the ballot. I didn't have the ability to choose from him, but this year, easy choice for me. Should have been an easy choice. Last year, 71% a year ago, but again, I didn't see him on my list. Mr. 3,000 hitter, Mr. 4,000 hitter if you include his professional career in Japan. And he's Mr. Can Do It All. That brings us into the winter meetings, where we can expect to make some deals happen, whether it's Phase B, Phase C for the top prospects, or maybe even some major league movement, some top-end guys, especially with the consideration of free agency that is out there. But it's also time to see that draft lottery result, where we just held on to better odds than other teams as we improved to 66 and 96 this year. And here we go. It's the Angels going number 1. They were 4th best on the odds, but we do get number 2, and I'm pretty happy with that. It's not the number 1 pick, but the number 2 overall pick is going to give us some solid freedom. The Padres will pick 3rd, the Pirates will pick 4th, the Blue Jays drop to 5th, while the Phillies move up to 6th. The number 1 team, the number 5 team, both get bumped out of the draft lottery. This is, of course, the United States sports where rewarding failure is obviously frowned upon. Elsewhere, this is where you take away that rewarding of failure to an extent by having the draft, by having a lottery for it, and not being just automatic. You failed, so you fail big to the number 1 pick. No, it's the you moderately failed and you have a chance. But the Angels win that draft. They move up. We end up staying neutral. We stay second in the draft. And that ends up being due to the odds. The number 1 team is not even on this list at all. So they have failed completely. With the turn of the year, scouting accuracy went from very high for every single player in the organization to suddenly low or average for most as we go into a new year, and changes happen during the offseason. So as players age or develop naturally, or their off-season programs, personal programs, alter who or what they are. What we're looking at now is I've got a lot of scouting to do. We also have new salaries in place for a lot of players. Our highest paid player is J.P. Crawford, who's a 2.5-star talent at shortstop and 30 years of age in the last year of his contract. I doubt we're going to really be able to move on from him in an easy way. We're probably just going to have to keep him in place and let it expire and let that $11 million come off the books into next year. Austin Meadows is somebody we're going to want to look at for a trade this season. He certainly had a decent year, and he's one of those lefties. We don't have very many of them. But you can see we very quickly drop into there's not a lot of players. This is the entire organization, 284 players. Not a lot are making major league salary. Most of these guys are minor leaguers, and that makes things easier. And as you look at that major league roster, mid 20s, late 20s is pretty much the entire group. We have Jake Cousins at 31, making 1.2 million as the oldest player in the organization, or at least at the senior level of the organization. There's possibility that we've got somebody younger there, but a lot of young, relatively inexperienced guys, and only a handful with 5 years or more of major league experience, in the entire organization. So keeping it young, keeping it affordable, doing what you got to do. We got to play that small ball. We got to do money ball here in Oakland, Portland. Assessing the squad, of course, in short order right now because we've got to get scouting accuracy back up. Nobody is massively overpaid. We've got 5 starters that are all making under $5 million, one of them making minimum, and overall, even the relievers, none of them are making too much. And there's 14. So we're going to have to shed one eventually when we begin the season, but we're looking pretty good on that front. Ursig is 30. Mariñez is 30. Cousins is 31. So I'll probably likely look to move on 1 or 2 of those guys to stay young. And of course, arbitration is something to watch out for with these guys, as all of them are on that lower end worth of deals. As for the lineup, we're now at 12 players here, as we did shed a couple through free agency. We do have guys at bigger deals. Of course, Crawford, I'll be looking at seeing what we can do with Crawford if he's going to be asking for less and worth hanging on to, because at 30 he could still be a decent player for a couple years. And with just 2 lefty bats in the lineup, there's a definite hole to fill in that area. With arbitration for Jeffers and Langoliers, the only ones coming up, in the coming year, and Ruiz sort of got that catcher situation, maybe moving on from one of them this season, like Jeffers, who's already making $4 million as a little bit more of a veteran. We signed him as a free agent last year, but maybe we want to use him as trade bait to swap something out and find another piece in the coming year, as we certainly don't want him pushing up into the 7, 8, 10 million range a year from now for a guy who's really our backup catcher. Hit 250 last year. I mean, he's certainly okay, but nothing to write home about. Crawford, of course, missed most of last season, and he's certainly not an amazing player, but we'd love to see him do a little more than he did. I mean, his numbers were very, very consistent compared to what they were at Seattle the year before. Of course, he did that rehab assignment briefly, so ignore those numbers. That was small number of at bats at AAA, but he's definitely a decent hitter, and we don't need to have power hitters 1 through 9. So Crawford, as a decent defensive piece, he's a good player, but I don't know if he's an $11 million player. Means at this point, really the only trade pieces that we have out there is possibly Jeffers or Crawford or Meadows. Everybody else is definitely worth hanging on to. First deal of the winter meetings is definitely not a phase B. This is not about a future prospect. It's about a here and now kind of prospect. I'm giving up 2 of my light future prospects and a number of guys that are just trade bait. Acosta is the guy we're getting in return. He is OSA has him at 2.5 stars already. We have him at 2 current, 2.5 potential, but contact is already hit for average level. The avoid strikeouts is all there. He just lacks that overall high-end power. He's not a fast guy, but he's not necessarily a slow one either. And he can play a slew of infield positions and play them well. Adds an important piece to our major league roster. I mean, this is a big acquisition for us, though he's only just hit AAA last year, partway through the year, but he played more than half the year. But he hit 285 and definitely has the wins above replacement. This is already our ready to move on at that shortstop position for us kind of deal. So with just a single move impacting the major league roster so far through addition and 0 subtraction, we still find ourselves at 0 in terms of wins above replacement gained or lost, putting us still all the way up in 4th place and doing well. The waiver wire has been mostly non-existent, but there was a handful of players getting dropped here and there. And I definitely still have some extra players out there. I mean, we're missing a good 15 right now from here, but we're good at our other levels. We've already got that 15 right here to cover it, which means we're a good 30 to 40 players for more Phase B deals to kind of happen and keep things moving along. And this December is one of those best periods because teams recognize that, oh gosh, 30 guys just retired out of our organization. We have holes to fill. You want to offer us 10 players for this big-time prospect? Sure, you betcha. It's a good time to make things happen. The Rule 5 draft is about to take place. I have 6 openings on our secondary, on our 40-man roster, and it's time to look on how to deal with those situations. Anybody with the hashtag is going to be Rule 5 eligible. I currently have 114 players in the organization that are Rule 5 eligible. Let's start with the current overall. There's some guys that could be picks in terms of that overall. There's a decent amount of them here that I'm going to have to assess carefully. There's also the potential side, which expands that list further. But like Villarreal is a half-star current. Like, nobody's going to take this guy. None of the potential ones are too high. So at this point, we've got to look at what we have just in this small group right here. I'm not going to worry about any of the 2-star ones. I know Estes is actually up there as kind of a trade bait, higher end prospect for us. I know Zach Littell is somebody who is. There's teams that want Zach Littell, who finished the season hot and is ready, but he just doesn't have great stuff. I had him at Double A last year, and his ERA was a 5. I'd rather trade him than have to protect him. The final verdict on our 12 highest overall rated players, the ones that you don't want to lose for nothing. Of those 12, only 4 of them have I found to be keepers. The other 8 are now trade bait. We've got 1 day till the Rule 5 draft. I don't want it getting to that point, so I think we need to try to make a couple moves happen now, using those 8 as centerpieces to maybe get something big in return. Couldn't find a trade partner, so we go into the Rule 5 draft with things as they are. I protected those 4 guys that I really wanted to make sure we hung on to. The others are at risk. We might lose some of them. I would think Littell is a popular one to lose. But with the Rule 5 draft pending, nobody seemed to want to make a deal for any of those players in their current state. We are going to pick second here behind the Royals, who of course missed out. We're in a good position. We'll see if I do have a couple empty spots, and we certainly brought some guys in this way last year, and then we were able to make deals otherwise. Let's start the draft and see if there's anything good out there. Lots of 2.5-star players, nothing coming in higher than that. And right off the bat, some of our guys are showing up already near the top of the list. But older than the others, so we'll see how that one plays out. And Zach Littell was the first pick. He's got control, but he just doesn't have good stuff, and none of his pitches are great, which is why I didn't protect him. And we're going to go ahead and go for first baseman Victor Barracoto, AAA Jacksonville, .5 wins above replacement, but he did hit .322 at AAA last year with an OPS over 1. Definitely doesn't have speed, is not great defensively. It might translate more to a DH, but definitely a stronger hitter. And we do have a DH to replace in our lineup. He was supposed to be protected. Maximo Acosta just lost Harrison Bedar and Maximo Acosta, who we just made a move for. We just made a trade to pick up Acosta. We gave up Phase B kind of pieces to get him, but I put him on my 40-man. We lost him anyway. Apparently I made a mistake. Well, we're going to go pick up Dylan Coleman. He's on a minor league contract, but he has played for Kansas City and Houston. For Houston, get that ERA under 4. In general, that whip is about a 1.4 the last few years. Lots of strikeouts, really good stuff. Good fastball, good slider, 2-pitch guy. Definitely a reliever. Just lacks control a bit, but his walks per 9 has been 5 to 7 for the last little while, meaning he's going to be tough to hit. Come in as a specialist, throw to a couple batters and be done. That's all I'm going to end up drafting. Yeah, pretty mad about the Acosta one, because I was pretty sure I had protected him. Clearly, I made a mistake on that one, and that is frustrating because he's somebody I wanted. Somebody I definitely wanted. But that does it for the Rule 5 draft. I had hopes of maybe making it to January, but I knew that was going to be hard. I wanted to at least get through the Rule 5 draft, and we have done that. We pick up 2 players, but we lost 3. Disappointed in one of those, not too worried about the others. I knew Littell was a target, but I just could not find a draft partner for him, and he ended up going first. So they definitely like what Littell had, as he had control, but he just doesn't have good stuff, and he's never been able to put in an ERA that was decent. But Littell was somebody that we picked up on a minor league with Major League contract for free last year. So no big loss on that one. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.